because I'm sure you have some stuff coming up maybe, but also just kind of, we can just talk about some tips and tricks and things that people can do to ease some anxiety and maybe to meditate a little bit, or, you know, anyways.
Yeah, for sure, man. This is beautiful. And I want to say the same to you. I mean, when you came on the podcast, which feels like a while ago right now, but when you speak about your faith and you speak about Baha'i and you share those messages, I mean, it's so powerful, man. Like, there is nothing more powerful than you hearing than hearing you speak from your learnings and your teachings and what you've immersed yourself in. And I think that
I love you, sweetheart.
We love you. and I think you're right. I think my friend was just telling me, he just did this session in London. We were just talking as well, not on a live, but just on a phone call. And he was saying he just did a session called How to Go Inside When You Can't Go Outside. And he was sharing that with me. And we were talking, yeah, I love it too. And we were talking about it. And that's what it is. I think you're spot on, that we've all been given a window to have an opportunity to work through rather than find our way out. And I think our mind does this. Everyone's like, when's this going to end? When are we going to be out of this situation? And we're always very scared of sitting with discomfort. We're not trained to, because since we were kids, and I know you don't do this because you and Emily are, you know, incredibly conscious in your parenting. Not that it's, no, I know you won't say it's perfect, and it's not, but you're very conscious and you're intentional in your parenting. But, you know, since we were kids, we were always told if we were hurt, it would be like, don't worry, it's going to go away. Like, don't worry, like, you're not hurt, it's fine. Like, everything's okay. And it's like, it wasn't okay to feel not okay. Like, it wasn't okay to feel pain or feel discomfort for long periods of time. And so I think if we can use this as a window to open up our mind, and exactly like you said, how can we sit with some of that discomfort? How can we work through this, not trying to squeeze our way out of it? Yeah. And I know that that's different levels of discomfort for different people. And so there are some people who this is affecting on such a like financial, physical, everyday level. And that's a different challenge. But for anyone else who's having to just learn to be home more with their families, with their kids, and life's just taken a weird turn, this is a space for us to open up for that.
So what are some ways that we can do that? And I'm fine if you want to use me as the example, right? Because it's always easier when you have somebody, and I'm okay being the guinea pig here, right? Because there's no part of me that claims to be, oh my God, this is hilarious. My wife she just crawled. Just crawled.
You don't have to do that, Emily. You can walk behind our live any day.
This is not a professional podcast like
No, it's not meant to be. Yeah, we're just two friends hanging out. Emily, do what you like.
It was so funny. But so, you know, for me, and maybe we'll use me as an example, and maybe there's some people out there like me, right? So my meditation, in the Baha'i faith, we're told that we should read the writings of Baha'u'lláh in the morning and at night, right? It's just to read the word of God in the morning and at night as a way to kind of recenter ourselves. But we're also told, and we have obligatory prayers in the Baha'i faith, that we should be praying every day. All right, that's our offering, right? So so for me, I do that, and I practice that every day. But I have a very hard time, whether it's based on how I'm built or my ADD or my just crazy artistic brain that functions best when it's doing 100 things at once. It's very hard for me to just sit and not move for an hour.
Yeah.
Right. So I've always felt that for me, meditation is best in the gym is meditation for me, but that doesn't always work. And I'm really interested in learning how to sit and be still. It's an area that I want to work on in my 30s. And I'm so for people like me, if there are people like me that are listening, I hope I'm not the only one. What are some examples of ways to kind of work up to maybe not doing what you do for an hour, but like calming some of the anxiety and just sitting with it?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a beautiful Tibetan Buddhist teaching that you reminded me of. And it says that the body is benefited by movement and the mind is benefited by stillness. So that's the beautiful paradox, the kind of yin and yang of like, the body needs movement, the body needs that engagement, but the mind needs stillness. And how do we get both? So One of my favorite ways is through breath. And the reason why breath is so powerful is because even anyone who works out or is an athlete or a musician, or even if you're just walking on the street, we all identify with our breath as connected to emotion. So I'll give an example. When you cry or you're having a really emotional moment, what changes? Your breath, right? Like you start breathing shallower and you start breathing quicker. Or when you're really happy and you're ecstatic about something with your children, what changes? Your breath. Your breath changes. And then when you're running late for something, so we say things like, I've run out of breath, or I'm trying to catch my breath. And so our breath is such an easy route towards real stillness that you can actually physically, tangibly feel. So this isn't just a mental thing, it's a chemical, biological thing that we can all experience, that when you're nervous, you start breathing faster and shallower. Mm-hmm. When you're calm and still, your breaths are deep and heavier. And so switching our breath pattern. So anytime you hear a mental trigger or an emotion of like, I'm stressed, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, you'll notice your breath change, and that's when you want to do the opposite breath. So a good example, and to simplify all of this, is you can place your left hand on your stomach.
All right, everybody do this. Everybody do this.
This is going to be really flattering for Justin because he has an amazing stomach, but for the rest of us.
Hey, no, not right now, man. And that's okay. I'm also learning to be okay with that. All right.
So place your left palm on your stomach.
Okay.
And this may seem slightly alien to begin with, but roll with it. So what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment, I'm going to ask you to breathe in and breathe out naturally. But when you breathe in, I want to see or want you to feel your stomach coming out as you breathe in. And I want you to feel your stomach coming in as you breathe out. So as you breathe in, you'll feel your stomach go out. And as you breathe out, you'll feel your stomach go in. So just try that 3 times on your own. So we're both going to do it too.
Does it matter if it's out through the nose or the mouth?
In through the nose and out with the mouth slightly open. Yeah. Okay. So. I love those big breaths from Justin. Check that out. So you can hear it. It's great.
Hope everyone's doing this with us. I already feel better.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it literally, even for me, like I do that all the time, but I feel better. It's instant. And what we're doing, and I'll explain why it works. So that's something known as diaphragmatic breathing. It's a medical, biological term. It's not just a monk term or meditational term. And diaphragmatic breathing is used by athletes to last on the field, to play wind instruments or sing. So we may not be singers or athletes, but in my opinion, we are athletes to some degree, because we're running around, we deal with stress and pressure, but we don't breathe the same as them. So what I try and do is anytime, and we experience it in different ways, but if I'm about to go on stage and speak to thousands of people, or I'm about to walk into a meeting and I'm really nervous, or, you know, I'm meeting a person for the first time, I stop and do this activity. And the way to make it really work is breathe in for the same amount of time as you breathe out. So in a moment, I'm going to test it again, and we're going to count to 4 in our mind as we breathe in, and we're going to exhale for 4 as well.
That's really interesting. And before we do that, so I've been practicing box breathing.
Okay, yeah.
Which essentially is 4 to 5 seconds in, hold for 45 seconds, 45 seconds out, hold for 45 seconds.
Yes.
As a way to calm the system. And is it a similar thing?
Yeah, so this is what I call my step 1 towards that. So this is like a step ladder, because I think for some people, when they think about holding their breath, they kind of like, they try and hold it for as long as they can when it doesn't need to be that intense. And so what you're doing is exactly what we want to work towards, and we can do that too. Like we can test that. We can. I think you're.
Let's do the basics.
Okay, yeah. There's box and there's rectangle. So rectangle is breathe in for 4, hold for 2, out for 4, which is energizing, and relaxing is 4, 4, 4, 4. What you're doing. So
got it.
So we can. Let's do. So put your left palm on your stomach again. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in, and I want you to count in your own mind 1 to 4, but at your own pace, in your own time. So don't go as my pace, don't go at Justin's pace. Find your own pace and then count out as well. So we'll try it and then you try it. So breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4. In your own time, at your own pace, no force or pressure, just calm and peaceful breathing.
It's amazing how much that calms you.
It's calming watching you do it.
Yeah.
Seeing your
it's
smile.
funny. It's funny because it's hard to not when you do it in this way. I mean, it's also because we're doing it over this over Instagram Live, but it's hard to not feel happy.
Yeah.
Wow. It's like it's an immediate kind of mood booster as well.
Totally. Yeah, you're spot on. And I mean, watching you smile. I just took a screenshot. Oh wait, I just took a screenshot of you smiling while you're doing it. It's the most adorable thing. But yeah, I think that's the beauty of it. This is what I love. Like, when you reached out, you're like, Jay, let's do this. It's like, I was excited to do it because it's fun to do it with other people. Like, you don't have to make meditation like a boring activity that you have to do on your own. You can do it virtually like this with your friends. You can do it with your wife or your husband or your partner in your home. You can do it with your kids for like 3 minutes. So, get them to get involved, and you can tell me whether that works or not, Justin. But
well, what's interesting is, and you brought up the owies and when they hurt themselves earlier, and something that I've been practicing with the kids is trying to get them based on the level of owie that they have, because there's the owie I want attention, and then there's the real owie.
Yeah.
And what I found is when they get the real owie, and I say to them, and we practice breathing through it, they do it, and it's like the pain goes away like that. And the other owie is just because they want attention. But my thought was like, nobody ever taught me how to breathe growing up. So I dealt with so much anxiety, especially as a young teenage boy, as I dealt with so much anxiety and depression and all of these things. And nobody ever taught me the key to breath work. But if we could teach our children, like, I just can imagine like the tools that they'll have in their lives,
Literally, yeah. And all of our emotions are connected to our breath. Like when we're nervous, we hold our breath. Like we clench our jaws, our bodies go inward, we tense, we tighten and we tense, and then our breath, like our chest feels tight. And so breathing is so connected to every emotion you feel, and you know that. So now I know whenever I feel emotionally stressed, because let's be honest, all of our stress is mostly emotional. There's a beautiful statement by Seneca, the Stoic, where he said that we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. Right? And so most of our stress and pressure is imaginative. It's us being fiction writers and coming up with all sorts of scenarios. And so whenever I notice my mind start to do that, I choose straight away to go, all right, let's calm down. Let's get into this breath. Like I do it even in the gym. Like even if I'm picking up a weight that I'm scared of picking up, my mind will just go, Jay, you're not going to be able to pick that up. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. Just snap into breathing. And so breathing is a great way to feel it straight away.
So what you're saying, Jay, is that you also struggle in something.
I struggle in so many things. So I'll tell you where. When me and my wife go on hikes and I start running out of breath and I'm just like, my mind starts going to me, I can't do this. It's not possible for me. This is getting really tough and difficult. And that's where I go back to this. Or I get it when, if my wife ever asks me to cook, I'm such a terrible cook. I get super nervous about cooking because it's not.
Well, that's because you're married to a chef. I mean, it's like, that'd be like you asking me to teach you a meditation.
Yeah, there's so many, even when I do what I do today, like even when I go on, if I'm getting interviewed on TV or you're going on stage in front of thousands, I get nervous at all those things because I think I get nervous when I care. And that's another thought that's really helped me. That's a thought that's really helped me overcome my nerves is when I get nervous, we usually feel we're not good enough or we feel like we're not strong enough or we feel we're imposter syndrome. Whereas for me, I remind myself, I'm like, if I'm nervous, it means I care. And the day I stop caring, how boring will life be? Because, I'm nervous even today, before I came on this, because I want to make sure that everyone's happy and served. And so I I just understood that being nervous is not a negative thing. And I think this is an important point, that we've been conditioned to believe that loneliness is a negative thing. Ever since kids are small, you're told, oh, that kid's the lonely kid or the loner, or just so you know, to the parents, just so you know, your children are not very popular at school. You know, they're always on their own. They don't talk a lot. Like, these are all seen as negative connotations. And when I was trained as a monk, and more recently, a Paul Tillich, a writer in the last, I think, couple of 100 years, but when I was taught as a monk, we were taught that being alone is not a weakness, that actually solitude and silence and stillness are like powers and strengths where you can discover so much. And so if you're alone at home right now, you should know that you can find one thing you love to do every day that brings you joy in life and where you enjoy your own company. Loneliness makes you think that you need other people's company to be happy. Whereas solitude and silence and stillness makes you realize that you can be your own best company. And I'm not saying you can't call anyone, but I'm just saying that it's important to recognize that.
I love this in so many ways. I also love this because the last time we hung out and we did a podcast, I talked the whole time. And this is fantastic.
Which is amazing.
Because this is what I wanted. There's so much, you have so much wisdom. I'm curious, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, right? And I want to kind of tap back into, you know, all of our collective audience as a whole, I think is suffering a little bit right now. And I'm curious what practical advice you have for, you know, I mean, look, we're seeing what's happening with panic buying, you know, with people trying to get the drugs and all of the various things that they need that, you know, that other people that need them are not able to get. We're seeing just a lot of the actions being taken in society right now are coming from a place of fear. And as we've talked about, and there's a lot of quotes that we both have about, you know, fear and love, right? But I have been thinking about it a lot in the sense that, you know, I wonder if there's an important, healthy sense of fear. In the same way that in the Baha'i faith, we're taught to have a healthy sense of fear of God. In the same way that I want my children to respect and have a healthy sense of fear of me. Not that I'll hurt them, but if they disobey me, then they're going to get a timeout or something will happen. And I'm curious, you know, the people that are not listening to to the rules right now, there's no fear. There's an invincibility thing. And then on the other end of it, there's extreme fear, paralyzing fear, right? And I wonder if there's a place in the middle that the rest of us can live. And so for those of us that are trying to live in the middle, and for those maybe that are on the extreme end of the fear, what are some things that we can think about and do on a daily basis that can help us come out of that, like, that me place, right? That, like, I have to survive and it's me against the world and it's no longer about anybody else. It's my family and I need all the toilet paper. What are some, you know, what are some things that we can think about?
Yeah, and I'd love to hear yours too. And so I think the way you described it is perfect. Like, it's literally living on either extreme, the extreme of like, nothing, I'm invincible, nothing's going to happen to me, or everything bad's going to happen to me. And those are both expressions of ego, because ego is either like, I'm the best and nothing's going to touch me, or I'm the worst and everything bad happens to me. And the funny thing is, both of those are fiction. And the people in the middle are living their life based on the facts at hand. And so the starting point is, let's not live in the fiction of we're invincible, this is not real, or the fiction of my life's going to end right now. It's you know, it's not to that degree in the sense of if you're not unwell yet. If you are, that's different. But the middle ground is the fact of like, what do I know? What I know right now is I need to wash my hands. What I know is I need to stay at home. What I need to know, and I don't know if anyone, I think a few people have been saying this, but I don't like the term social distancing. I think we're being social right now.
Physical distancing.
Physical distancing, yeah, exactly. It's physical distancing. And so let's encourage physical distancing. And then let's just try and make our lives really meaningful with that. And I think that's the middle ground for me. Like, I'm in my home and you're in your home, but we're having this meaningful connection. So for me, one of the things that people can do is have virtual breakfast, lunches, dinners, workouts, and game nights with people. I was just recording a podcast for my audience the other day, and I saw a study which was talking about how play is really good for feeling connected and how it's really good for brain functioning. And so right now it can actually reduce stress as well because it releases cortisol. So it's such to play games together virtually is like a brilliant thing to do. So I think we have to focus on, if we can't have shared space, how can we have shared experiences? And the thing is, we're craving experiences. We're not craving space. Like me and you, I would love to be in the same room as you right now, but I'm still getting the same benefit from this exchange without having to do that. And I think we have to use technology in that way. So that's one thing. The second thing I'd say is I really want everyone to realize that your environment is based on three things: your sights, what you see, your sense, what you smell, and your sounds, what you hear. And if you don't curate each of those three things, you can actually end up creating more tension in your own space. So when you wake up, ask yourself, what's the first thing that I see in the morning? Does it bring me calm? If it doesn't, change it. It could be a quote on your bedside.
Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your phone.
Because when you look at your phone, you've started on a reactive already. Now so if you wake up and you're at 0, when you start looking at your phone, you're now at -5 already. And the whole day you're like trying to get back to 0. Whereas if you started with a prayer, if you started with a spiritual text, if you started with a meditation, if you started with just a quote, if you started with telling your partner that you love them, like you're now at a +5 and now you're like feeling boosted to keep going. So first sight, what do you see first thing in the morning? Second thing is when you walk into your living space, what do you smell? Scents are great at calming us. So a lavender candle, and now all the candle stores are going to be out of stock. But lavender candles, eucalyptus candles, these can boost your immunity, they can calm you down, they can relax you. And scents, why is it that when we walk into spas, we all feel relaxed? Because of the scent of the spa.
Yeah.
Like that's a big player in our life. And finally, sounds. I think most of us are either hearing the news, which is always not the most positive sound. I would say unfollow the threads you don't want to be on. Get off the stuff that's not critical to you and your family, that isn't important to where your family lives. You don't need to know about what's happening halfway across the world. It's just not relevant to you right now. And so turn off the news, have your alerts set up and your check-ins that you need to have, but put on calming music. Put on music that makes you happy. I mean, so many artists are doing concerts on Instagram. You know, there's so much beauty in sound, so surround yourself with sound. So those are three very practical things that anyone and everyone can do without learning a new habit or a skill. And if you change the sight, sense, and sound in your home, I guarantee you'll feel you live in a different place. Because it will change the environment.
I love that. God, I think I, along with everybody else, could hear you talk for the next hour if we wanted to. Speaking of which, your book came out, right?
No, so my book's been delayed.
Oh no!
Yes, the book's been delayed to September the 8th because we were not convinced that it was actually going to get to people because books are non-essential goods.
Yeah.
And so they were actually going to be held anyway. And so we didn't want to be in a position.
People can pre-order the book, right?
People can pre-order the book, but I just want to let people know. I just want to be transparent and let people know that they won't get it till September the 8th. It was meant to be 14th of April. I can't wait to get you a copy. But yeah, it's September the 8th. You can pre-order it, of course. But yeah, I just want you to know you won't get it till then. So.
Got it. Jay, can we go to some fan questions for you?
Yeah, let's do it. I love questions from people. Let's do it.
All right. So this is from Jackie Alvarado. She wants to know, how would you suggest dealing with the possible fear of socializing again once the quarantine is over?
Wow, that's interesting. So I actually think that we've become better at learning how to talk to people meaningfully over digital because of this. So we always had this fear that like, oh, I just text people. I think more people are calling each other, more people are doing lives, more people are doing FaceTime. Me and my wife, it was our brother-in-law's and her uncle's birthday, and we celebrated 2 birthdays over Zooms, like with people from all over the world. Like we would never have done that if we weren't in quarantine. Like that would just never have happened. So I actually feel that we've become better at being human through digital than we ever have before. And I'm hoping that we're going to take those skills across because I really feel that we've become better at being human because we need to right now. And so my encouragement is continue to be more human through your phone. I mean, you did this beautifully when you came on the podcast and I could sit and listen to you talk for hours, but I was just sitting there and saying, you're so human. Like, you were so open and vulnerable and genuine. And I was just like, if we can do more of that now, then we're just going to take that forward. So actually, we're not going to be at a weakness. I'm actually more excited for us. Thank you for that question, though. It's a good question.
I love that.
Yeah.
This one's from Kate Jurgensen.
Okay.
And she wants to know, how can college students maintain balance and keep their sanity with piles of online assignments while also resting and staying mentally strong during this pandemic?
Yeah.
So like, that's an interesting thing to think about. You know, if you're in college right now, on top of being at home, you have like, you're flooded with assignments. Your living spaces are different. You might be living at home. You maybe are a mom going back to school or a dad and you have kids. So how do you keep balance?
I think that because we don't know how long this is going to be or whatever it is, I'm excited to see people use this time to be more exploratory. I'm like, let the assignments be. I don't know if that's the non-parent in me, but I'm like, let people pursue their passions right now. Let people explore new ideas. Like, I feel like we're dealing with so much stress or pressure already. How can we actually engage that through new exploration, new discovery, new ideas, learn about new things? Like, take it a bit easy on our professional selves to be more focused on our personal selves and our passionate selves. And the best way to get the stuff you need to do get done is just have good routines. And I think for a lot of people, the challenge is they've never worked from home before. I think you've been working from home for a long time. I've worked from home for quite a long time. But I remember the first time I tried it, the toughest part is getting into a routine. So for me, knowing what time I'm going to wake up, knowing what time I'm going to work, knowing what time I'm going to switch off, all of those things are really important. So don't treat your work life separately. Like, keep it with that same discipline. But also realize that when you're working from home, you're not going to be as productive as you are in the office. Obviously, it's just, you know, in the same way at school, it's obvious that you're not going to be that productive. And so give yourself that space to explore new ideas. I want people to become their more passionate selves. I'm excited for students especially.
Yeah, this is a really unique time, right?
Yeah.
I think this is me reminding myself to make a petition to have you teach college around the country. Jay Shetty makes an announcement. Don't worry about the assignments.
All the parents. I'm just being honest with you. I think assignments are important, but I'm like, this isn't the time. This isn't the time where we should be thinking about stuff like that. And also with parents, a lot of parents I was speaking to a parent yesterday, and you're a parent, but I think he's got his children, my friend's children, are a bit older than yours. I think they're probably 10 or 11, or something like that.
That's a very different quarantine experience than a 4 and a 2-year-old.
Exactly. And so he was literally like him and his wife are sharing the subjects and education. And I just said to him, I said, why don't you give them an opportunity to just learn about themselves and be passionate and just explore a bit? And I'm not saying don't do your homework. I'm just saying that I don't think that should be placed on the pedestal right now. But that's my take.
No, I agree. I want to bring up one thing, because you talked about the word routine.
Yeah.
And I'm in a situation right now, interestingly enough, where my book is due to the publisher in 8 or 9 days, and I was behind.
No way, that's amazing.
And so, and I'm finishing my movie Clouds, but I am just, every day I'm writing my book. I have 9 days to finish it. It's almost there. And routine has been the most important thing for me to figure out. But the first couple days, man, I'm not gonna lie, they were a big challenge. Yeah. Because I'm here, it's like my world's been turned upside down. The kids are no longer in school. We're not going out. And there's the first few days I was up till 4 or 5 in the morning, and and sleep is also really important during this time, right? So I'm wondering, how can we get a routine going? Because you are very good at routines. If there's something that I know about you, aside from all the other things you're great at, I've watched you through routine be regimented and implement these things. And that's how you've built your community of 35 million. Right? That's how you jumped on Instagram, through routine, and were disciplined enough to just, I'm going to give people the dose of positivity they need all day long, and here's how I'm going to do it, and come and follow me. You do it in the morning with your wife when you meditate. You do it in the evening. You're routinely checking in on your friends. I love these texts I get from you sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of you about your ability to have routine. right now I do feel people need to figure out how to have a routine at home. So what are some tips for routines?
Yeah, I think the first thing you pointed out, which I think is beautiful, is that we do need to, we think what we're scared of is fear and anxiety, and actually what we're dealing with is judgment and guilt. So currently, I think a lot of people are judging themselves and being like, I haven't got it down, I haven't got it sorted, what am I going to do? Are my kids going to eat? Like, we're judging ourselves, and then we feel guilty that we're not good parents, we're not good partners, and we're not good people. And the truth is, hey, wait a minute, just wait a minute. None of us have ever been through this before. Like, no one has a game plan. Like, no one had a game plan. No one had a plan B sitting under their, like, couch that they would just whip out.
Bill Gates did. Because he did predict this 5 years ago at TED. Yeah. However, the rest of us did not.
Yeah, like, none of us had, my point is, none of us, you know, it's not like something that we all saw coming, so we should have been prepared. It's like, no one was sure about this. And so first of all, we've got to stop that judge and guilt that, look, we've just been dealing with this for like 7 days, 10 days, in the US at least. Yeah. Give yourself that, you just, that 7 days was just adjustment period. Like, that was just adapting. And you held it together, so congratulate yourself for that, because you're still here and you're doing good. And so first of all, stop that judgment and guilt. The second thing is, and this is a sneak peek from my book. I've not shared it. I think I just shared it in one place, but it's something that I really can't wait to share with people. So I talk about there's 4 aspects to a routine. And now I think I missed this one in the book, but I've been adding it on recently. But this is what, but don't let this happen to you. But the 4 things. So the ideal routine I call is time, T-I-M-E. So T stands for thankfulness. Every day, make 5 minutes for thankfulness, gratefulness. And the way to be truly thankful, as we were trained as monks, is be specifically thankful, not generically thankful. So your specific thanks should be something that only you could thank. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm grateful for the air. I'm grateful for plants. I'm grateful for trees. Like, I'm grateful for food. It has to be why you specifically are grateful for the sky, air, food, friends, family.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's really important, thankfulness. The second part to our routine is insight. So insight is this. Insight is you reading from the Baha'i faith. Insight is me reading from the Vedas. Insight is you listening to our podcast. Insight is you having a conversation or listening to what we're talking about. You need to have something every day that is teaching you how to choose the right thoughts. Because if you're not learning that every day, you're going to choose the wrong thoughts every day. So you need to have a piece of insight that is helping you choose your higher self. And for most of us, if we don't have that insight, we naturally go to our lower selves.
Lower nature, yeah.
Lower nature wins. So that's insight. M is meditation. So we just talked about that, so I won't say any more. And meditation is anything that stills the mind as a beginning step. So if it's swimming for you, if it's running for you, if it's meditating, whatever it is, it's something that stills the mind. And E is exercise. I actually think that we all have more opportunity. I feel healthier since this has happened because I have more time to work out.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm in the home more, so I can do more stuff. I'm not running around in cars to meetings, and I'm not with people all the time. So I'm actually feeling like I can be more in charge of my exercise routine and get more workouts in. So 4. And then the 5th one that I missed in the book is sleep. Times. But in the book I talk about making more time. So sleep, what I mean by sleep is make sure that you sleep early. You may think, as a parent especially, you may think that you need alone time in the evening, but if you sleep, that will be better decompression than watching a show or staying up till 1 a.m. watching a movie. Your sleep before 12, so we looked into this study for the book, that sleep before 12 almost counts as 1.5 to double the amount of time as sleep after 12. So if you slept from 12 to 6, that doesn't feel the same as 6 hours as 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's just not the same.
So it's more about our circadian rhythm. It's our natural biology. Yeah.
Exactly. And the amount of processes that are happening when we sleep, digestion, cleansing the mind, like we're literally cleansing and shedding when we're sleeping. So if the quality of your sleep is bad, you're just carrying more stress over to the next day. So find time for thankfulness, insight, meditation, exercise, and good sleep. And that's your routine. And you can do them for 5 minutes each day, or you can make them 15 minutes each. that's up to you, but make sure.
Except for the sleep.
Except for the sleep. Except for the sleep. Unless I don't know if you saw this, and I'm not recommending this because I could never do it. Cristiano Ronaldo sleeps every few hours for 2 hours. So
Oh yeah, he does. He does that.
Yeah.
Tim Ferriss talked about that in his 4-hour body book.
Yeah, he breaks his sleep down. Yeah.
And anyway. It's that they also used that when they flew across the Atlantic, and they did those various tests. All right, I want to ask a couple more questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to respect your time, man.
Yeah, please, man. This is beautiful. Your audience is amazing. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. I mean, we've been talking for a while, and you guys have just been amazing. So you're
so
really
amazing.
Special.
The only time I glance down, generally they're commenting on how beautiful your eyes look, and I just find that amazing. Because the funny thing was, my wife's sister, who's in Sweden, when she found out you and I were friends, she was like, "Oh my God, he has the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen." And it's true. Your eyes are beautiful.
Well, my team was crushing on you when you came on the podcast. So,
well, that's very kind. Let's see here. There's so many people wanted to ask you questions.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, look, here's one specific to you.
Yeah.
This is Natasha Mitra. She asks, Jay, I've been having panic attacks and anxiety because my parents are trying to get back to the States from India, but their flights keep getting canceled. And my job is making me go in. My mind is spiraling. What do I do? So I'm assuming we can combine some of the things we've just talked about, but maybe for Natasha, you might have,
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I think one of the things I'm hoping that first of all, your parents are safe in India. And actually, even if they can't get back, if they're safe, that's probably a better thing. Like I would look at safety over closeness, because maybe even if they come back, you might not be able to live together. We were talking about that with my wife. She really misses her parents. But we were, even a couple of weeks ago, if we were like, if she could get back, she might not be able to see her parents for 2 weeks because her parents are older and they need to be safer at this time. We know that. So I would say that if your parents are safe, that can relieve your panic, because that's such a beautiful thing to have right now, is knowing that your loved ones are safe. The second thing is, if you're having panic attacks regularly and they're at that extreme case, I would consider getting medical support for that. Like depending on how intense it is, it's important to see a doctor, it's important to see a therapist, it's important to see a medical healthcare professional if your panic attacks are genuinely affecting your physical and medical health and mental health. And then the third thing I'd say is that if you're having to go into work and you're having to show up, again, just follow the facts that we know. And you can know this, that if you are following the facts, then you are safe. If you're giving in to, so my building that I live in a building, I don't have a home. And inside my building, the receptionist desk have actually created a 6 foot, what do you call it? Like a rope, like the
like a boundary,
like a boundary around them, and even around the car park and everything, so that people don't have that. And it's so freeing in my mind knowing that if I need to go and pick up a mail or I need to go downstairs, I can do that. But so set your own boundaries and your own rules, even at work. Like don't just give in because everyone's being asked to come to work, and feel free to try and explain how you can work from home if you can. But if it's not a choice, set your boundaries and stick to them. You're well within your rights to not need permission to set boundaries, because it's your body, it's your mind, and right now the whole world is shutting down. So if there's a real reason you need to be at work, set your own boundaries. That would be my thought.
It's interesting how, even as parents, how important it is to set boundaries for our children.
Tell me about that, actually. I'm intrigued, because a lot of people have been asking, when I get asked about parenting, now I know where to send them. So
no. Well, first send them to my wife, and then she'll probably send them somewhere else. We're struggling and figuring it out like everyone else. But I think, but just the idea of boundaries when you're developmental, and your mind doesn't quite understand that you shouldn't do something, or the reasons why you shouldn't do something. Regiment and boundaries are so important for developing minds and children. And I was actually thinking about that for humanity. And oftentimes I like to think of God as a parent. Now that I'm a parent, right? I like to think of God as this. In the Baha'i faith, we're told that God is an unknowable essence. He's not a guy in the sky with a beard. It is like the fact that we are finite beings. We can never comprehend the infinite. How could we ever comprehend something that could create the universe and the planet? And once you've experienced birth and you've seen a baby come out and take its first breath, it's like your mind just goes, how is this even possible? So I've been trying to think about like God as a parent, right? And what seems like it's been happening these last 2 weeks is that we're being forced to have real boundaries for, I think, the first time in modern history, right? Like even going to Whole Foods today.
Yeah.
I haven't been to the grocery store in 2 weeks, and we were not people that went to buy toilet paper, which means we ran out of toilet paper. Just like you said, like six feet apart lines.
Yeah.
Right? Letting 2 or 3 people in at a time, saying, no, you can only buy 1 roll of toilet paper or 1 pack.
Yeah.
Oh, you only buy 2 almond milks, right? We're not hoarding. We're being asked to stay inside and to be creative in other ways.
Yeah.
We're seeing the environment clear up and smog go away. We're seeing fish come out in the Venice canals, right? We're seeing dolphins and whales off the coast of Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Like Emily and I looked up the other night in our backyard and we saw stars for the first time in Los Angeles, right? And it makes you wonder, like, wow, I wonder if we're being given these boundaries and we're being asked to be extra disciplined in the same reason that I ask my children to be disciplined, for protection, right?
That is beautiful.
It's the idea of like, is there a version of it? And maybe, you know, this does come a bit from the Baha'i writings, but also it helps my anxiety to think of this as a way of, well, maybe this is a protection.
Yeah.
Maybe this virus is a protection and an enforcement from another place for us to finally come together. Because for the first time, and I think the history of the world, every single country is thinking about the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
And we're all trying to figure it out together.
It's true. It's true, because I think we've had certain things. That is the most beautiful poetic thing that I've heard, and the way it's explained about the situation, and in a good way. No, in a real way. Like I think whether someone, you know, you can't ever factually prove that, but that makes so much sense to me, at least. With the way you said it, it makes so much sense, and it resonates so strongly with my heart, because I do feel that there is so much to learn in this, and we're learning to live with less, right? We're learning to live with less. And I think you start realizing, you're like, oh, I actually can live with a lot less.
Yes.
And we do eat better when we have less choice. And we, you know, all of these things that are coming out. And I do feel that there is a real message here. And when you look at the beauty, and even the way I see people live, like you were referring to some of those videos, I saw one where this elderly couple, their cruise had been canceled. I don't know if you saw this. And,
I did.
And they pushed their couch close to the TV. They got their drinks out, they put their robes on, and they were looking at this beautiful. And I was just like, that is so creative. And that shows the real test of, do we really want an experience, or did we want to run away? And now that we can't run away, are we going to learn how to create these meaningful moments right here, just with us two? Just with a few people, with the people that we love. Like anyone who's had a graduation or a wedding or a birthday or an anniversary at this time and hasn't been able to do it, hey, you can still do it. It only takes 2 people to get married. And it takes 4 people to be there for witnesses or whatever it is. It's like, and you can have it virtually. Like, what's more important to you, the occasion or the actual moment and the commitment and the love? And this is that.
And those, and jumping on that, the occasion, generally it's our attachment.
Yes.
Right? And it all comes down to our attachment, because it's our attachment to the perfect wedding.
Yeah.
Or the perfect thing, or the thing that we created in our minds, which I feel also, and you tell me your feeling about this, I feel people are mourning that more than they are the actual virus.
Totally.
Where it's almost like we're mourning the things we created in our minds that we wanted.
Yeah.
Versus the actual thing, because we are so damn resilient.
Yeah.
As a species. I mean, look at what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, look at the fact that we're doing this. We would have not done this.
No.
People are going live. Like, sure, we would have been like, oh, let's try to get dinner on the books. And then, you know, like, we're both so busy. Like, it might happen in 2 months. It might not. But the second that we can come together, combine our audiences and be of service in some way, and then refocus on our human connection, it's like, I just look at that and I go, wow, we are so creative. We are so resilient.
Yeah.
Like anything is possible. We've been to the moon, right? Elon Musk is building things to get us to Mars. You know, maybe this is about tapping back into mindfulness, bringing it all the way back to like the tiniest thing that we can do, because in the Baha'i faith, we're told that unity cannot spread until it starts in the home, right? Like you can't have world unity as a concept unless you have familial unity.
That's
right?
beautiful.
So it starts in the home between partners, between a family, and then it spreads from the home to the street, to the neighborhood, to the other houses, and then it spreads to the community and the town, and then, but it starts here. So even thinking about mindfulness and meditation where we are now, it starts here. Right? And that's why I love your message so much, and that's why I think your message is so calming, and it's resonating with tens of millions of people all over the world in such a powerful way, because it's something tangible that every single one of us can do right now to combat all of the stuff coming at us.
Well, I think I couldn't agree with you more, man. That again, it's so beautiful hearing you share that, because I think it's almost like we've been stripped away of every layer and excuse and reason and answer and distraction and everything. Like now it's just us with ourselves in our homes. And when you have to figure that out, and it's a similar teaching when I'm here, and that teaching is beautiful, by the way. And it's so true that in the Vedic tradition talks about how the ecology of the planet is based on the ecology of our hearts. So the environment, the ecology, like the pollution we see in the air is an extension of the pollution in our hearts, in our own spaces. And when you have to sit and you have to purify that every day, and it's every day, right? Like we were talking about, I've got so many things I need to work on, but when you know you're working on it every day, you feel good about it. Because you're like, we're trying our best, we're plugging away. And now I think we have the time. Like I think for a lot of people, we have the time to invest in that. And this is the point. There are some people out there who do not have time. And so for the people that do have time, we have to use that time wisely so we can serve and support. This is the answer, because sometimes when we talk about this, someone will stand up from the audience and go, well, Jay, what about people who are losing their jobs right now? What about them? And I'm like, that's true, but you're not in that position. So you and me, who are not losing our jobs right now, let's go and sort our own minds and lives out, and then go and serve and support those people. That's the goal. Like those who have always have a responsibility, and those who don't have will find new ways and new meaning through this journey if they're supported.
And that brings me, and that's interesting, because that kind of ties back into this idea of why we're all quarantining. Right? And a lot of people are having a hard time understanding. And if you are watching this right now, and you're somebody that maybe doesn't quite understand the reason we're quarantining, or feeling like it's an overreaction, maybe this can be something that helps bring it back. But for me, I've thought about, doing my last days for so long, and having so many friends with cystic fibrosis and with terminal cancers, and who are immunodeficient because they're on various drugs or have lupus, having elderly parents to a certain extent. It's almost like we have to take what you just said and understand that part of our duty, those of us that are healthy and maybe have the time and are able, it's our job to sit at home if we can, to create space for the rest of them. Because there is so much fear and anxiety for somebody that has these underlying conditions. I have a dear friend who's in ICU right now. He has COVID-19. He's 38, and he got it at a party where 2 people had it and didn't know. Now, I believe he's going to be coming off of the ventilator, and he's doing okay, but it was scary for a second. And I think about the fact that it's not just the elderly and the immunosuppressed. There's a lot of people that don't even know that they might have underlying issues, and the doctors don't even know yet why it attacks some people and why it doesn't. So there's so much, there's such a big responsibility for those of us that have the means to stay home and And it is almost like this loving sacrifice that we can do for the others that can't, because the people on our front lines, the people that are delivering our Amazon and our packages and our mail carriers, the grocery store clerks, the valet drivers, maybe in the buildings where there's no place to park, the first aid responders and our police officers and our surgeons and it's just like there's so many people that can't take that time.
Yeah.
So I love what you said, the idea that for the rest of us, we have to take that time.
100%, 100%. And yeah, I'm just grateful that, you know, everyone can try and share the gift they have, right? Like I was joking on a live when I'm doing my meditations daily. I was joking. I was like, you know, I'm not John Legend, so I can't sit there and play a piano, but I'm going to teach meditation because that's what I can do. And it's true. It's like everyone's got their unique gift that they can offer the world right now. For you, it may be you can pick
for me, it's asking questions.
No, but
I don't have anything.
Giving so many great insights on parenting. It's people picking up the phone to people. Like it can be a small, like it's not about big or small, and that's the point, that you picking up a phone to every elderly person you know and having some FaceTime with them, that's going to help. Like you helping deliver some supplies to your local care homes or your nursing homes, that's going to have an impact. Like we've got to realize that there is no small impact because each life is important. And there's a funny statement by the Dalai Lama where he said that if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And it's so true. It's, you know, like
I love the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, anything can make a difference. And it's like we don't realize that, you know, there's that common saying of, you know, to you it may be one person, but to that one person, that's their whole life. Like that is their life. And so if you can call one person a day, if you can show up for one person, if you can serve another family in your area with delivering nappies and food, just any of that stuff is going to really, it's going to mean so much. And then guess what? When we're out of this quarantine, back to that question we were asked, you're going to have better relationships with all these people in your neighborhood and your friends and your family because you invested. Yeah. So.
It's also interesting to think about it like a gym.
Go on.
So we spend so much time focusing on our external bodies, right? And I think like if we were able to see our souls and our like internal, whatever you would call it, I feel like you would be a bodybuilder, right? So like Jay Shetty would be walking around like, you know, popping out of his shirt, you know, and like a lot of us would have like chicken legs, but
like me.
But I think when I hear you talk, it reminds me, it makes me think like, you know, what if this is our opportunity to go to the spiritual?
Yeah.
And what if this is our opportunity to work on all of those things because we are going to need them even more when we come out of this, right?
Yeah.
Just like what you just said. It's like when we come out of it, based on that question that she asked, this time can be, it's like, I've heard meditation, the analogy of a meditation, and I think it came from a Vedic quote, and you can get into this more. Meditation is like the act of the slingshot being pulled back, right?
Yeah, the archer.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
The archer. Like it has to be pulled back for it to be let go of.
Yeah.
And what if this is our opportunity to kind of pull back collectively as a society and come out stronger on the other side, more unified, closer together? And I did that, and when you think about it that way, for me, it just brings me hope. And because when you turn on CNN or Fox or BBC, you feel like the world is ending.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's, you know, keeping us alert and aware, and they've got to do their job. They're doing their job, but we don't need to be tuned in all day, because if it's not making you deal with the family and the people around you and your state and city, it's actually not that relevant right now. And that doesn't mean you don't care about what's happening around the world. I'm not telling you not to care. I'm just saying, and so I think it's really important to care for the people around you, make a difference there and become a part of that solution and feel like you're having an impact. And you're right, this is the only time we've ever all been together about something. This is the only time the world's ever agreed on something as a whole world. Like, it's insane to think of that. Like, we're in complete,
we're in complete unity for the first time.
Literally, it's huge. It's crazy.
And I remember when it brought tears to my eyes when I saw that the Chinese, all those Chinese doctors sent over the supplies to the Italians, and they actually quoted Bahá'u'lláh, "We are the waves of one sea."
Oh, did they?
Right? Yeah. So powerful is the light of unity that it can illumine the whole earth.
Wow.
And it's almost like we're being given a chance to fully come together for the first time. Before we go, I have one more question. Wife are doing right now as you're quarantining that you maybe weren't doing before that you can share with the rest of us?
Interesting. What are we doing? We've been trying to get out very early for early morning hikes together. So we do get out in the morning. It's super early, so there's like 10 people out.
Hence the reason why you're struggling to breathe and you're like,
yeah.
That's the morning.
So me and my wife never work out together because she likes high intensity and I like. We started doing like a little book club at night. So she reads a book she wants to read. I read a book I want to read, usually from the Vedic tradition, and then we'll share notes. And we've always wanted to do it. We've done it in like bits and bobs before, but this is the first time I feel like we've got a real commitment to it because now no one has to go anywhere the next morning or no one's rushing around throughout the day. So we have that stillness. So that's been really. And I was talking about this to someone. I was saying, like, it's still okay to want your space in the day. Like, I have this is like my work desk where I'm working throughout the day. My wife, obviously, because she's a recipe developer, her office is the kitchen in the sense that that's where she gets to test her recipes and things like that. So we're still in our work environments during the day. And I think that space is important because we're used to it, we need it. But at the same time, it's important to find activities that you do love doing together. And it's important to have those conversations. And now we have that time with no pressure to have that communication. So I'm with you. I think that's amazing. And I'm guessing you've been doing it with Emily and
we're figuring it out. I mean, we're pretty open books. And
you spend a lot of time together though. You two spend a ton of time together.
Well, interestingly, we try to create time together, right? It's like the quote on my arm. Where there is love, nothing is too much trouble, and there's always time, right?
Yeah.
But what we found is, I try to integrate my work and my life together so that they're not separate. So asking her to come by, and she's a part of all the things that I'm doing. But I recently learned that it can also be a burden.
Yeah.
Because I want her so involved in my life that it takes her away from hers. And now that we're on top of each other, yesterday it was really funny because she went outside to the backyard. and I followed her because I wanted her to look at something. And she's like, oh!
I love that.
She's like, you're on top of me. And it was so funny because I'm writing my book, and in my book, I'm talking about man spreading, which is this idea, which is this thing that happens where men unknowingly take up so much space that the New York subway system had to basically ask men to stop man spreading.
No way, that's
to
hilarious.
create room for women. And I literally was out there like legs like this, like and she's sitting next to me like this. And I'm like, babe, can you look at something? And she's like, I just need a few minutes.
That's
and I'm
hilarious.
like, okay. Okay. So we're figuring it out, and communication at the end of the day is key.
Yeah.
And something that I'm practicing and we're practicing is just being radically honest, lovingly radically honest. In the Baha'i faith, we have something called consultation, which is this idea that we need to settle all things large and small through consultation. And consultation, the prerequisites are radiance of spirit, love, and joy. You can't approach a conversation unless you have those three things. Otherwise, it's an argument and it will not end well. So we're practicing this idea of, okay, how can we consult about something, bringing love into a conversation, even though it's uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And we're not great at it. We're practicing it, but that's something that's going to be really helpful for us, I think, especially navigating parenthood and work and all the various things.
I love it, man. I love it. This
Jay,
is beautiful. That's so nice to hear.
You are one of my favorite people, and I'm so grateful
Same,
that
man.
you
This has been such a great conversation. Like, we never prepared, just so you know, everyone, like, we had no preparation. Like, we just, you know, Justin and I were talking about this for the past couple of days, and we just did this. So, but this has been one of my favorite conversations I've had about the subject. This is so beautiful. So thank you, man. Thank you for letting me share from the heart. Thank you for sharing so much energy back. And make sure, again, and I'm saying this as a friend because I missed out on so many of these. Literally, as soon as you end this conversation, it gives you an option to download the video. And if you don't download the video, then you can never download it.
Well, no, but it hasn't been giving me the option to download.
So literally, I didn't save so many of my meditations for this reason, because I didn't know. I thought I could download it later. So when you press the cross and you say end video, it will come up with how many viewers have been on. And then in the top left, it will say download this video. And it will be like this little drop down, download. Make sure you press that. I can't press it. I won't get the option.
I'm going to try to press it. If not, it'll stay up for 24 hours, and then I'll have somebody do a screen record of the whole thing.
Yes, fine. Okay, perfect.
But amazing. I so appreciate you, and then we'll we'll do a couple of FaceTime without people listening at some point.
Definitely, man. I love this. Thanks, man.
Thank you all so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.